Welcome. We're reading the entire Bible. We're now in the book of Exodus. We're entering the book of Exodus, I ought to say more accurately. Moses never existed, he's not a historical figure. The Exodus out of Egypt, as described in the Bible, never happened. Now, I am aware that there's a rumor going around, I'll call it a rumor going around in the mass consciousness that archaeologists found wheels of chariots at the bottom of the Red Sea. That's not true. That has been debunked, and we'll talk about that. So, in the book of Exodus, we're really going to give attention to how you loving, how you loving, how you loving. Come on in, come on in. We're really going to give attention to Moses, how Egypt is framed or Kemet. We're going to give attention to ancient aliens such as the Anunnaki and how they show up in the book of Exodus. We're going to look at alien spacecraft in the book of Exodus. We're also going to look at who this story is for. Let's go to Exodus chapters 1 and 2. Oh, and then our commentary. Let's go. This is going to be good. This is going to be delicious. We are in the World English Bible. Why? Why not the Ethiopian Bible? Why the World English Bible? Because the World English Bible is one of the few Bibles that is not in copyright. So, yes, many people always say, how could the Bible be copywritten? Yes, it is. The Bible is copywritten, depending on which version of the Bible you have. So, if you have the King James Version, if you have if you have the World English Bible, if you have the Douay Rheims Bible, if you have the Darby translation, all of these are not in copyright. And so we are reading from the World English Bible in this series. I've tagged it here on YouTube if you'd like to buy the World English Bible. And I will show you a list of Bibles. Let's see, Bibles not in copyright. And there are about 5 or 6 of them. So hold on, let me show them to you. Let's switch the screen to the non-copywritten Bibles. Replace. We're going to go to Bibles not in copyright. Let's go to that screen for a moment and let's share. Here are the public domain Bibles. Well, there could be more. These are the key public domain Bibles, I'll say, as it states here. Okay, King James Version, American Standard Version, the 1901 American Standard Version, World English Bible. This is ours, what we're using, free of copyright. Darby, Young's Literal Translation, Douay Rheims, 1899 American Edition, Bible in Basic English, Open English Bible, and Reina Valera Antigua, a classic Spanish translation. So those are, the King James Version is not in the public domain in the United Kingdom. So if you are in the UK watching this, take note. So we don't use the King James Version for our. I don't use the King James Version for many reasons. It's not a good Bible. At either any, which I've fully elucidate in my book, The Real God Is Not in the Bible. We are using the World English Bible. Now, I do like the footnotes of the World English Bible. I do love the footnotes of the World English Bible. I feel like the World English Bible is being honest with me. That's what I feel like. Let's go. Exodus chapters 1 and 2. Now, these are the names of the sons of Israel. who came into Egypt, every man and his household, came with Jacob, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, or Naphtali, depending on how you pronounce it. I've heard Jewish people say Naphtali, and in the Black church, we say Naphtali. Gad and Asher. All the souls who came out of Jacob's body were 70 souls. And Joseph was in Egypt already. Joseph died, as did all his brothers and all that generation. The children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and grew exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose a new king over Egypt who didn't know Joseph. He said to his people, "Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come, let's deal wisely with them, lest they multiply." And it happened that when any war breaks out, they also join themselves to our enemies and fight against us and escape out of the land. Therefore, they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with their burdens. They built storage cities for Pharaoh, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and the more they spread out. They started to dread the children of Israel. The Egyptians ruthlessly made the children of Israel serve, and they made their lives bitter with hard service in mortar and in brick and in all kinds of service in the field, all their service in which they ruthlessly made them serve. King of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of the one was Shipra and the name of the other Puah. And he said, "When you perform the duty of a midwife to the Hebrew women and see them on the birth stool, if it is a son, then you shall kill him. But if it is a daughter, then she shall live." But the midwives feared God and didn't do what the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the baby boys alive. The king of Egypt called for his midwives and said to them, "Why have you done this thing and saved the boys alive?" The midwives said to Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women aren't like the Egyptian women, for they are vigorous and give birth before the midwife comes to them." God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and grew very mighty because the midwives feared God. He gave them families. Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, "You shall cast every son who is born into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive." Footnotes to Genesis 1:9, behold, from the Hebrew word, means look at, take notice, observe, see, or gaze at. It is often used as an interjection. Exodus, I said Genesis, Exodus 1:9, Exodus 1:17, the Hebrew word rendered God is Elohim. Keep that in mind. Elohim. Chapter 2. Exodus chapter 2. A man of the house of Levi went and took a daughter of Levi as his wife. The woman conceived and bore a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him 3 months. When she could no longer hide him, she took a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and with pitch. She put the child in it and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank. His sister stood far off to see what would be done to him. Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe at the river. Her maidens walked along by the riverside. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her servant to get it. She opened it and saw the child, and behold, the baby cried. She had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Should I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you?" Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." The young woman went and called the child's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." The woman took the child and nursed it. The child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses and said, "Because I drew him out of the water." In those days, when Moses had grown up, he went out to his brothers and saw their burdens. He saw an Egyptian striking a Hebrew, one of his brothers. He looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. He went the second day, and behold, two men of the Hebrews were fighting with each other. He said to him who did the wrong, "Why do you strike your fellow?" He said, "Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you plan to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" Moses was afraid and said, "Surely this thing is known." Now, when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to kill Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and lived in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now, the priest of Midian had 7 daughters. They came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. Came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. When they came to Ruel, their father, he said, "How is it that you have returned so early today?" They said, "An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and he drew water for us and watered the flock." He said to his daughters, "Where is he? Why is it that you have left the man? Call him that he may eat bread." Moses was content to dwell with the man. He gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter. She bore a son, and he named him Gershom, for he said, "I have lived as a foreigner in a foreign land." In the course of those many days, the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed because of the bondage, and they cried, and their cry came up to God because of the bondage. God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. God saw the children of Israel, and God understood. Footnotes to Exodus chapter 2, verse 10. Moses sounds like the Hebrew for draw out. Genesis 2:22. Gershom sounds like the Hebrew for an alien there. If you came here for the reading of the Bible, there you have it. Now let's get into the commentary. The first thing I want to say is Moses never existed. This is a story. I'm going to say this several times throughout the book of Exodus because Moses is a legendary hero in Christianity and Judaism. I believe he's also known in Islam. And it is time that we all understand that Moses is no more real than Mr. Frodo. Moses and Mr. Frodo and Harry Potter all live in the same world, a fantasy world. Moses never existed. Now, when I first heard this, I was taken aback. I was shocked. I was disheveled. No, 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 this can't be. But Moses parted the Red Sea. He made water come from a rock. This man spoke up to it to the Pharaoh. This man had a speech impediment and he overcame it. This man talked to God at the burning bush. This man went up on Mount Sinai and got the two tablets. What are you talking about? It never happened. It never happened. I'll give you some background on this so that we can understand it. This I'm framing the entire book of Exodus. And the entire book of Exodus is being framed as a story that was made up. And I'll show you right now the parts of the story that are incoherent because we already have fallacies in the story and we've already only read 2 chapters of the book of Exodus. Let's look at the first part of it. I definitely believe he was a real person. Yeah, I believe that too. I used to believe that too. He's Mr. Frodo. Did Mr. Frodo ever exist? And once I lay out the evidence, this is not a lady who just wants everybody to deconstruct from Christianity, just a wild Christian witch on YouTube talking, spouting speculations. I'm talking about biblical scholarship, archaeological evidence, and history. I'm not talking opinions. Everybody can have an opinion on Moses. Everyone can feel free to have an opinion on Moses. I'm not talking about opinions here. I want Moses to be a real person because it suits my younger self better. If Moses was a real person, I wouldn't have gone through all of that cognitive dissonance. I wouldn't have gone through all that angst. I would have rather that Moses was a real person. Turns out he's not. Deal, Valerie. Deal. Well, I have to deal with it. Okay. Either I can accept the archaeological evidence, the textual evidence, history, what we know of Egypt. I can accept biblical scholarship on some points, not all points. I don't agree with anyone on all points. Everyone ought to have their own mind. If you agree with someone on everything, someone's not thinking. There's many ways of looking at things. Even scholars don't agree on everything, even though in scholarship there is something that we call consensus. And when I say we, I don't mean we as in scholars. I'm not a Bible scholar. I'm an independent researcher. But when I say we, because I heard someone the other day talk about we, that people shouldn't use the word we if they're not a PhD. Very interesting. Anyway, when I use the word we, let me clarify terms. I'm talking about the human race because I thought archaeologists were pulling things out of the ground for the enlightenment of the entire human race. I didn't know that they were only pulling it out of the ground for other archaeologists to sit in conferences and discuss. Well, I saw this stele, and this stele looks like this, and never shared with the rest of the world. Like, this is humanity's treasures. Whatever's pulled out of the ground belongs to all humanity. So that's what I mean when I say we. I mean the whole human race, and I would even broaden the we to beings that don't even live on this planet that visited us long ago and that are still visiting us. Three Eye Atlas. I still think they're visiting us. Three Eye Atlas. That's another conversation for another day. So if we take the word of archaeologists, historians, I don't mean, and Bible scholars, and I don't mean Bible scholars who are apologetic Bible scholars. What are apologetic Bible scholars? They are trying to take every bit of evidence and make it fit into the Bible story so that they can keep telling you that Christianity is true. And there are many Bible scholars like that, and there are many divinity schools like that, and there are many places where they're teaching that. And I'm not talking about those kinds of scholars. They're jaded. They want the Christian story to be true no matter what. So you cannot take their word fully for it because all of the evidence that they're looking for, they're looking at it through a Christian lens. I'm not trying to prove what I believe. I want to know what happened. What happened? I want to get to the bottom of things. I'd like to know. I'm grown enough to handle the truth. I'd just like to know, did Moses exist or did he not exist? That's important to my life for me to know. That's all I want to know. And if he never existed, I'm a grown enough woman that I can deal with it in my consciousness. Okay, well, I've got to unpack some things here. I've got to sit down and ruminate on this and see where this whole thing fits into. Do I still want to even think about Moses? My answer to that as a Christian witch is yes. Because for me, Moses and Daniel and all those people being historical figures, I never needed them to be historical for my spirituality anyway, because them being historical people has nothing to do with me living my life right now. For me, Moses is a metaphor. What does Moses stand for? Freedom from slavery? It's a code. It's symbolic, but I'm an occultist, so you would expect me to think that way. I think in esoteric terms. I think in magical ways. I think in symbology. I think outside of the box. I don't care at this point if Moses ever walked the planet or not. Yet I do know that there are many people who do care. And that is why I approach this topic with clarity and with power and compassion. Because I was there when I was hearing these hard truths. I was discombobulated, like, oh, I built my life on these things. What are we talking about here? No such person as Moses. What? Okay, the world just ended. I need a nap. I need a nap. You mean for thousands of years they've been telling us this, and he was never a person, never existed, never. The whole basket thing, no, that's somebody else's story. Whose story is that? Sargon of Akkad. And Horus, also known as Heru. His name is Heru. The Greeks called him Horus. Heru was put in a basket, sealed with pitch by his mother Isis, and floated on the Nile River. Sargon of Akkad, before Moses, 1,000 years before Moses, Sargon, supposedly the creator of the first empire, the Akkadian Empire. His mother got pregnant, kept him hidden, and then put him in a basket and floated him on, except this time it was the Euphrates River, not the Nile River. And Heru, he was floated on the Nile River. You got three babies that they put in the old stories, three different babies that you put in a basket and floated on the river. The mother sealed the basket up really good, put the baby in a basket. This is like leaving babies on doorsteps of churches. Like, is that what they did in the olden days? You didn't want your baby. Instead, there was no church. So there were temples, but there was no church. And we hadn't yet figured out that you could just leave a baby on the doorstep of a church or a monastery or someplace like that. And they would take the baby in and take care of the baby and make sure the baby was adopted and all those kinds of things. What? Three different babies. How's that possible? But you only knew the story of one. So if you only know the story of one, you think that this is a miraculous baby. You think that this is it just is a legendary story. We are no better than the ancient Greeks who really thought that uh, Diana, not Diana, it wasn't Diana, Athena was born out of her father's head. Athena burst out of Zeus's skull. If we think Moses is a real person, we are the same people. We haven't changed a bit in thousands of years. We are the same people who think Poseidon came out of the ocean with what's that thing? A trident. We still believe that Perseus or not Poseidon. We still believe that there was a real um, God who flew too close to the sun. What was his name? And help me on my Greek gods and goddesses. Flew too close to the sun and burned because of hubris. We're missing the point because all of these people are not literal people. These are mythologies. And what is a mythology? A mythology is different from a legend. A legend just didn't happen. It's all completely made up, like Harry Potter is a legend. Moses is a legend. Then there is mythology. What is mythology? Mythology is a story intentionally designed to encode truth. Aesop's fables, Greek mythology, parts of the Bible. It is mythology. It is a story. Now, the story never happened. It's a story, yet it's a story for a purpose, as Joseph Campbell showed us in Hero with a Thousand Faces, that all over the world, humanity has created and sustained and retold stories. And why? Because our consciousness loves stories. And as we're hearing the stories, the truth is being encoded in our consciousness. And when we hear the story of the rabbit going super fast, the tortoise and the hare, and the tortoise is going slow yet consistently, and the tortoise beat the hare, we do not think that there was a hare that actually said to a tortoise, "Hey, race me." And the tortoise said, "Okay." And the hare took off and then took a nap. Oh, I'm so far ahead of that tortoise. It's not even funny. Took a nap, got some snacks, played in the little forest, bumping around, and the tortoise just kept going. Now, we don't have Icarus. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, family. We don't have any issue whatsoever putting the tortoise and the hare story into mythology. Oh, it's a mythology. And what is that story encoded to tell us? I still use that story today in my business, because you want to act like a hare, jump all over the place, be unfocused, undisciplined, yet you're fast. And that does not beat speed, and talent alone does not beat the consistent step by step action of a person who is singularly focused and disciplined. Every day they simply take another step. Tortoise. And our parents told us that so that we could see clearly the choice. Oh, I'm supposed to be the tortoise, like the tortoise in the story, and not like the hare. It doesn't matter how fast I do my homework. Was I methodical in my approach? Was I careful, just taking one step at a time? Was I disciplined? Was I consistent? We know all the lessons. We know the truth that's encoded in the story of the tortoise and the hare. But then when we go to the Bible, we lose our minds and we lose our critical thinking skills. And we all of a sudden want to think that Moses was a real person. Yet when we look at Harry Potter, we understand the story. Lord Voldemort was the alter ego of Harry. They were connected. So you have a dark side that you must overcome with the light side. Use your magic, use your power, get your friends, come together and overcome the darkness. And there's no death, because afterwards there was still life after life. And he could go on the other side and talk to Dumbledore and then come back and defeat the dark side within. That's a metaphor. That's a mythology. Harry Potter is a mythology. And we don't have any problem with knowing that Harry Potter is a story that encodes powerful truths, which we call a mythology. Yet when we look at Moses, we don't want to call him Harry Potter. All of a sudden, Moses is special. He's not special. He's not special. He fits into all the motifs of ancient Near Eastern literature. It's literature. Now let's go to Exodus and let's begin with a very interesting piece of propaganda. The propaganda was so clear you could see it. All right, Sharonda. Sharonda. Yes, esoteric and metaphysical. I never needed them to be real either. I know, right, Sharonda? Dia, you keep saying Genesis instead of Exodus when reading the footnotes. Is that a Freudian slip? Yes, I'm back in the book of Genesis again. I've got to now get used to This is Exodus. Exodus. We were in the book of Genesis for so long. And then we went to the apocryphal books, and we were in Enoch for a really long time too, it felt like. All three books. And now I've got to, this is day one of Exodus. I've got to tell my mind, Valerie, you're in Exodus now. Exodus 1, Exodus 2, and so on. Okay, let's go to the propaganda. No, notice. Notice the propaganda in the book of Exodus. Let's notice. Let's just look at it. Okay, here we are. We're going to go to chapter 1, and we're going to look at the first piece of propaganda. Here's the first piece of propaganda. Okay, so now Joseph died and all that generation. Here's the first piece of propaganda. The children of Israel were fruitful. This denotes blessing. Because remember, when these words were written, you're blessed if you have a lot of children. And if you don't, something's wrong, you're cursed. Okay? Fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and grew exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This sentence is the first piece of propaganda that we come across in the book of Exodus. There were that many Israelites. They were so fruitful. Look at all of the adornment in this sentence. Fruitful, increased abundantly, multiplied, grew exceedingly mighty. The land was filled with them. They're painting a picture. By the way, if you're not descended from Israelites, if you're not a Jewish person, Jewish came later, Israel, Hebrews, it was Canaan and then his Hebrews and then Israel and then Jewish. If you're not with that, these words do not apply to you at all. These words are an origin story for the Hebrew people. And I know there's a lot of Black people that say that they're Hebrew Israelites. That's fine. Call yourself whatever you like. I'm talking about all the rest of us. If you like to call yourself a Hebrew Israelite, go right ahead. I'm talking about all the rest of us. I think Jewish people comprise less than 1% of the world's population. The other 99% of the population, this does not apply to you. This does not apply to you at all. This was written by a group of people for a group of people. There was an audience involved. So let me come off screen share. And why do I say that there was an audience involved? There's an audience involved because no one in the ancient world wrote anything for the purpose of writing. It was too hard. No one wrote, I think I'm just going to write, just writing. No. They wrote for a reason. And the reason that these writers are writing is very clear: to give their people an origin story. These words were written centuries after the purported facts, the purported events. Let me not say facts. The events supposedly took place between 1100 and 1500 BCE. It was written between 400 and 600 BCE. So you're telling us that this story of things that happened about 700 years ago is completely accurate? This, first of all, it's not an accurate story. Second of all, it was never meant for the whole world. Group of people who were writing it at the time for the group of people that they were talking to give them an origin story. No one ever knew that this story would blow up. I'm pretty sure the people never thought that this story would become a Bible. Joel Baden says that all the time. Professor of Hebrew Bible at Yale Divinity School. I think he's someone we can trust. He is a professor, PhD, of Hebrew Bible at Yale Divinity School. I think we can take his word for it when he says, I'm going to give you some notes, some quotes from Dr. Joel Baden that will absolutely blow your mind. Let's go to it and let's see what the professor, just one scholar among many, one scholar among many. Look up Dr. Joel Baden. Dr. Joel Baden is all over YouTube. I love him. He has a quick wit. He's extremely intelligent. The man knows what he's talking about. Well respected scholar of the Hebrew Bible. He is a Jewish person as well. And I love scholars that still have their devotional practice. I don't know if he has a devotional practice. I don't know his religion. I do know that he's a Jewish person. And to what extent he's Jewish, I do not know. I don't know his personal life. And I could not say that unless we asked him. What I do know is that he is of Jewish descent. And so he knows the world. He knows the language. This is his people. And when a person like that tells you this, pay attention. Hold on. Let's get Joel Baden. Dr. Joel Baden. First, here's one quote. I have him quoted several times. Even though the Hebrew Bible is old, it is not particularly the oldest, nor is it particularly unique. It's not unique. It draws on, imitates, somewhat or almost plagiarizes ancient Near Eastern literature that predates it, sometimes by more than a millennium. This is what he said about the Hebrew Bible, which we are reading right now, the Hebrew Bible. Okay. This is what he said about Moses. Blew the lid off. And you can take it or leave it. I think he knows what he's talking about. Nothing in the Bible about Moses is historically verifiable, even remotely plausible or true. Dr. Joel Baden said that, I wasn't on screen share. Hold on. Dr. Joel Baden, wait a minute. Dr. Joel Baden. Dr. Joel Baden said, I'll show you his exact words. I will show you Dr. Joel Baden's exact words. Nothing in the Bible about Moses is historically verifiable, remotely plausible, or true. He said it's not even remotely plausible. What, Dr. Joel Baden? You hurt my feelings right now. What? Here's the other quote. Even though the Hebrew Bible is old, it is not particularly the oldest, nor is it particularly unique. It draws on, imitates, somewhat or almost plagiarizes ancient Near Eastern literature that predates it, sometimes by more than a millennium. Dr. Joel Baden, what are you saying? Do you see how many times I have him quoted? The Bible wasn't written for us. This wasn't even written for you. Take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. Because some of us, no, it wasn't me. I got it when I was 3. Some of y'all was in your mama's womb and you were hearing about Moses. Some of y'all were in your mama's womb and you were in church and they were swearing that Moses really talked to a bush that was really on fire and not being consumed, and the man never existed. Just take a breath. Boom, here's another one. Because the Bible is scripture, sacred, in our minds, there's a knee-jerk desire to absolve it of any apparent problems. Because this is holy. Oh, this is special. Oh, this is sacred. Oh, it's scripture. It's canon. Oh, it's special. Because it came from God, straight from God's mouth. Because of that, We have what? What has it caused in our consciousness and our psychology? A knee-jerk desire to absolve it of any apparent problems. The God of the Hebrew Bible is a jerk. He is horrible. Oh, but we gotta say that there's a reason why he did all these horrible things. We have to absolve it. We have to. Wow, you're working so hard to make something that was never written for you and that was written by many different people over the course of centuries in different places, in different languages, with different agendas and different thought processes. And you smash it all together in one book, and you want to tell us this came straight from God. Is Dr. Joel Baden helping you? Is Dr. Joel Baden helping you? Here's one more. Let me give you one more from Dr. Joel Baden. If you really want truth, not a single book in the Bible was written to be a book in the Bible. They weren't writing a Bible. They were writing literature. Let it soak in. Let it soak in. Let it soak in. Let it soak in. The Bible wasn't written for us. Let it soak in, angel. It wasn't written for us. God of the Bible gets abusive single father. He's horrible. And why can't we not just admit that he's horrible? We can't admit that he's horrible because this is the Bible. This is God's word. So we looked at the first bit of propaganda in the book of Exodus. They're setting the story up. They're telling you a straight up fat lie. Here's why. At no point in Egyptian history, Old Kingdom, New Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, at no point in Egyptian history did Israelites live in Egypt and outnumber the Egyptian people. That's what the story told you. The story is telling you that there were so many Israelites that they outnumbered the Egyptians. And anyone knows Egyptian history knows that that's just not possible. It's not possible. Let's go deeper. It never happened. No record of that ever happening. Let's go deeper. Let's go further. Because we've got to understand what we're reading when we read the Bible. When you read the Bible, you're reading ancient Near Eastern literature. When you read this, you're reading ancient Near Eastern. Okay, next, the Pharaoh tells the Pharaoh would know Joseph or anyone else in this story. Accordingly, in this story, they don't know anybody. And so all bets are off. Let me come off screen share. Remember when we talked about the absolute absurdity that this country bumpkin named Joseph, who they tossed in a ditch, and the Bible says two different things about how he got to Egypt. Some say the Midianites got him, some say another story. It's a couple of different stories, and we read the stories. The story isn't even agreeing within itself, right? There's no internal harmony about what actually happened to Joseph. We still don't know because they're stories. Well, Joseph gets to Egypt. He grows into this exceedingly great person. He has the signet ring of Pharaoh, which means, and notice, they're calling him a king, and he's not a king. You don't call pharaohs kings, you call them pharaohs. Anyway, that's beside the point. He has the signet of the Pharaoh. This is what they told us in Genesis about Joseph. Think this through. He has the signet ring of Pharaoh. That means that he can make a decree or a law and he can stamp it with the signature of the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh trusted him that much. First of all, that's ludicrous that this little country bumpkin came and he was sold and he was in Potiphar's household. Then he went in jail for a couple of years. And then after he came out of jail, he's an ex-con and he's a country bumpkin. And he's not an Egyptian. And he was never trained in any of the Egyptian mystery schools. He was never initiated. Like, to even get into Pharaoh's house, you have to go through steps. Like, okay, so he's an ex-con. No, no, no shade on ex-convicts. I'm saying that if you were a country bumpkin ex-convict and you showed up at the White House with a great idea, it doesn't matter how great your ideas are, they're probably not going to let you in the front door. However, in the story, let's just accept the story as they told it to us. Joseph came in, and we're just retelling the story. We're not accepting it. We're retelling the story. Joseph came in, and here he is second to Pharaoh because he saw Pharaoh's dream, and the dream advisors that Pharaoh had, they were no good. They couldn't solve Pharaoh's, but they've been trained in all the Egyptian arts. But you can solve my dream. Therefore, you're raised above all of them. And now you're second in command. And now I'm going to put you in command. I'm going to put this country bumpkin ex-convict in charge of all the storehouses of Egypt to store up food for the next 7 years. Nowhere does that appear in Egyptian history. When you go to Egypt, let me show you something. Can I pull up something for you right now? There's something I want to show you. I've been to Egypt. We're going to Egypt again. I've scoured through many temples in Egypt, and there's something I want to show you. Let's go to this Egyptian. There's something I want to show you, and I'm hoping that I can find this Cairo museum, the Egyptian museum in Cairo. Okay. Let's see if I can find what I'm looking for. I would like to show you some of just a snippet of what it looks like when you are in Egypt and when you are looking at records from ancient Egypt. Just a snippet, okay? Just a snippet. If I can pull it up, the Egyptian Museum. Hold on. I'd like to share something with you, and you can come to your own conclusions. How's that? We love that. You look at the evidence and you come to your own conclusions. Cairo. Here's my Cairo. Okay, hold on. Let's go on screen share. I found it. I found it for you. Come on in, come on in, come on in, beautiful people, because by the time we finish this, your head will be blown to smithereens in a good way. Let me bring up the picture for you. So here I am in the Cairo Museum. And as you can see, okay, this is what I want to show you. Well, actually, it's something similar to this. Let me see if I can get the exact photo. The Cairo Museum, that's me inside the pyramids and whatnot. Okay, here's what you want to know about Egypt. And I'm in the museum. And the museum that we're going to when we go to Egypt is going to be the new museum that is on the same Giza Plateau as the pyramids. Okay, look at this right here. This is the picture I'm looking for. You know what this is? This is the entire history of the names of the pharaohs and the dates they ruled. That's what this is, okay? Now, what we are looking at, supposedly, the pharaoh of the Exodus, maybe he was Ramses, that's what they want to say. Who knows, right? We don't know. They think it might be this Ramses or this Ramses or this Ramses. There were several Ramses. So it could be any of these Ramses. We don't know. Tell me where in all the records that Egypt has kept of every rule other than Akhenaten, they tried to wash him out, but it didn't work. They tried to scratch his name out from history. They called him the criminal of Amarna, but it still didn't work because we still found Akhenaten and where they scratched out his name. You can see where they scratched out his name. because they hated him. Anyway, he's a story for another day. Where in Egyptian history is any story that would corroborate the story told in the Bible? Where? Where in Egyptian history and all the hieroglyphics and all the history, we have humanity. When I say we, I'm talking about humanity. Because these artifacts pulled out of the ground belong to humanity. This is a human story. Where is any corroboration outside of the Bible in any Egyptian record that there was a man who rose to being second only to the Pharaoh named Joseph? They renamed him. And he ruled with almost like co-regent, and for 7 years, actually longer than 7 years, because he stored up the food for 7 years. And then for another 7 years during the drought, he was administering the food. For 14 years, this man was second to the Pharaoh. Which Pharaoh? We don't know. And there's no evidence of this man anywhere in any Egyptian record. Nothing to corroborate the story outside of the Bible. So we don't need the Bible to be giving us history. I love the Bible. I don't need the Bible to give me history because it's giving me so much of other things. I don't need the Bible to be true anymore. Let's go further. But wait, there's more. Okay. So there's so many people. Let's go to the next hole in the story. There's so many people. So many people. The Exodus will tell us 600,000 able-bodied men, plus their women and children. We're talking, scholars say that would add up to somewhere between 1.5 million and 3 million people altogether. 600,000 men that can go to war. So think of our army, think of our military in any country, think of your military, and then think of the entire population. Your military is probably, I don't know, 20%, 10% of the entire population, or 30%. I don't know how many people in the military. I don't know if every third person is in the military or every fourth person is in the military. The military is a cabal of people that are not the same number as the total population. Okay, so let's say that there were 600,000 able-bodied men. This is what they tell us, men that can fight. 600,000 able-bodied men. So we'll call that men between, let's say, 18 and 30, or maybe 18 and 35, something like that. Men that are like, in their prime and they're, can duke it out and protect and all that stuff. After, 40, 50, I don't think they let you into the military after a certain cutoff point. Anyway, and if you're too young, you can't come into the military either, because you kind of gangly, you're still having growth spurts, your hormones are going crazy, all that kind of stuff. Maybe they might lower it down to 16 for some guys, but mostly 18. So let's just say 18 to 35, 600,000 of them, which means they all have a wife or a girlfriend or something. So that's another 600,000. And they all have parents, presumably. That's another 1.2 million, because we presume each one of them has two parents. Then, not presume, each one of them does have two parents. We don't know if the two parents are still alive. Everyone has two parents. Anyway, it's just funny sometimes. Anyway, what about them? Their grandparents are still alive. So Bible scholars say that this number that the Bible gives, 600,000 able-bodied men, plus the company, all their kids. So their booze, their kids, their parents, their grandparents. You're talking 3 million people. There weren't even 3 million people that were in the end of Egypt at the time. Let's ask the AI. Let's just ask Google. Google, let's just ask Google. What just we're gonna what let's say population of Egypt in 1100 BCE is estimated to have been between 3 and 5, approximate estimation. Some say 2 million to 4 million, some say 1.1 million to 1 point. How is it that the Israelites escaping from Egypt were more than the entire population of Egypt? Explain the numbers. It's more than the entire population of all of Egypt, including all the Egyptians. Okay, let's go to the next part. This story, when dissected point by point, is actually very easy to debunk. You don't really even need evidence outside of the Bible. You could just read the Bible and understand your history of Egypt, and you would know that these things are not true. Okay, let's go further. Let's go further because we're not done yet. Because this is one of the biggest parts of the Bible that we've got to understand. This is like Genesis with the flood and Tower of Babel and Sodom and Gomorrah and the creation of Adam and Eve. All of these Anunnaki stories, we've got to understand them for what they are. And Exodus is pivotal. If you don't understand these quote unquote patriarchs and matriarchs, and if you don't understand Moses and the whole story of Exodus and what Exodus is doing, these are the foundation pillars that they put under Christianity of how it all started. Supposedly, this is the origin story. Now, supposedly, they made them build these cities. Now, Python Ramses is a real city. So when they looked at, remember, this was written 700 years after the fact. So these cities did exist during the time that these books were written. However, there are some anachronisms in the text, anachronistic. And why do we say that? Because some of the things that they're writing about, because they're writing about it so far after the events supposedly occurred, they are writing about things as they present now and not as they would have presented 1100 years before. So they have some of the cities wrong because some of these cities weren't even invented yet, weren't even established yet. So that's an anachronistic fault in the text. So you can find dating faults in the text. It's almost as if I said, this would be an anachronism. Yeah, when Martin Luther King and Abraham Lincoln had lunch together, well, everyone living in America would know that's not possible. Martin Luther King wasn't even born when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. Was he? Was he born? What year was Abraham Lincoln assassinated? I don't know. The math doesn't add up. We do know that Martin Luther King and Abraham Lincoln never had. That would be saying like Benjamin Franklin and Barack Obama were best friends. Now, if I say that 2,000 years from now, people might, and they don't know the political landscape of the political landscape of America during the 2000s, and let's say you live in the 4000s, in the 2000s has fallen out of the current zeitgeist of humanity, of Americans. So we don't know what America will look like 2000 years from now. It might not even be called America at all. We don't know, right? So it would be anachronistic for someone, if you were living in 4000 CE, and you said that Benjamin Franklin and Barack Obama had dinner together and they discussed and they created this new world order kind of thing, people might go for it because unless they went and examined and say, wait a minute, just like they can tell us things about people that lived 2,000 years ago and we don't know. If they tell you Plato and Pythagoras had lunch, okay. Unless you go and look up what were the dates of Plato and Pythagoras, what were the dates, you would know because it's not in our zeitgeist anymore. It's not in the prevailing consciousness of humanity. It's not current. It's not immediate. So when that falls out of consciousness, we don't know what happened 2,000 years ago unless we go and look it up. Now, here's the funny part of this story. Supposedly, there are 600,000 able bodied men, according to what it says in the story. And we would imagine many of them could be married. They're able bodied, so they're being fathers. And we have millions of people giving birth. And how many midwives are there? Pharaoh calls all the midwives. Come on, midwives. How many midwives are there? 2. Shipra and Pua. We got 2 midwives to help a population that is about a half of the size of New York City. When I was growing up in New York City, it was 8 million people in New York City. Like, do the math. 8 million people in New York City. Not all of them are having babies. Okay, if we take half of New York City, that's 4 million people. And let's half it again to 2 million people. Maybe all of the Israelites, according to this story. It wasn't even that many Egyptians. It wasn't even that many in the whole population, according to some historical, data points. Let's just say it was a quarter of New York City, 2 million people. And you're telling me that 2 midwives are running around. That would be like you have 2 doctors that can deliver babies for 2 million people. 2 doctors, 2 OBGYNs that can deliver babies. 2 midwives. Pause. Pause. Please tell me how that's possible. Please tell me how it's possible that 2 women can run around and deliver all the babies. And Pharaoh is calling midwives. Pharaohs in Egypt didn't call midwives unless it was a royal midwife for the royal babies. They didn't talk to regular people. What are we talking about here? So yeah, Pharaoh called. How did he find them? Hey guys, henchmen, go out and find me these Hebrew midwives. Hebrew midwives? They're looking at Pharaoh like, for what? We don't even talk to them. Yeah, go find me round them up, all the midwives. Here come these 2 ladies to the big Pharaoh's palace. Okay, midwives, I want you to kill all the babies you have. The midwives are standing there looking at each other. Come again? We help with life. We bring life into the world. Anyone who knows a midwife wouldn't kill a baby. I mean, at some points, I don't even know what to say about these stories. Why did we miss all of this? I missed it. Okay, he brings 2 midwives. The story itself refutes the story. Okay, he brings 2 midwives and he tells them, kill all the babies, the male babies. No royal decree. No. Okay. Just kill all the babies. Now go, okay, as you were, go on back out there doing your midwiving stuff. But if it's a girl, let them live. But if it's a boy, kill him. What did they say? Okay. The 2 go and time passes by. How does Pharaoh know that the midwives are not killing these babies? How does he know? Somebody reported, the spies at every birth. Oh, that was a boy. And she didn't kill him. Midwives don't kill babies. If you want assassins, you're not going to call midwives. If you want to effect a mass infanticide, you're not going to call midwives. You call soldiers. Go grab the babies. This is political propaganda. They were seeking to paint Egypt as horrible and the Israelites as this blessed, fruitful, abundant. Do you see how the framing that the Egyptians are the villain and the god of, you need a villain. You need a good villain. They made Egypt a villain. And the god of Egypt is the hero. And and the people were so blessed and so amazingly multiplying everywhere that the Egyptians had to do something. So when that plan failed, then he tells the Egyptians, go grab random Hebrew boys and throw them in the Nile River. Now, there is no record anywhere in Egyptian history of any infanticide at all, which someone would have wrote about it. Maybe someone outside of Egypt would have written about it. Those Egyptians are horrible. They're committing a mass infanticide over there. Someone would have written something about it. Nothing. The only place you find this story is in the Bible. Next, when it doesn't work that you can't get the Hebrew women to be assassins, you're telling people just go out there and grab the boys and throw them in the river. Then you decide, well, if we can't get rid of them, we're going to make them slaves. These abrupt turns of events in the stories, completely incoherent. Okay, we're going to make them slaves. How? They're so multiplied, they're so prosperous, they're walking around, they're doing whatever they're doing, they're living their lives, they're being free. And how is it that you are now going to go and get all those people who have been living a free and prosperous life and they came from Joseph? And there's the story of Joseph, and everyone in Egypt should know Joseph because he saved all of Egypt from a famine for 14 years. Everyone should know him. No one knows him. Everyone forgot. That's what the story says. We forgot. We forgot about Joseph. You don't forget a man who saved the entire country from starvation. He sounds like he should be a hero. That would be on temple walls. We would have steles about him. Think about it. Are any of these, think about it. When you think about all of these things, what do you think? And you're just not going to show up and take my baby and we ain't going to fight. That's what I'm talking about. What are we doing here? What are we talking about? So the women just let you take the babies. No one created a counter plan. If you knew that people were coming for your children when you leave, if I knew that someone was coming for my kids, I have many options. First, I'm sleeping with a knife under my bed and I'm going to stab you. Next, I'm going to scoop my kids up and we get in the first horse and chariot out of Dodge. Like, it's simple. We're going to Canaan. We're going to, there's a million places you can go. We can go south down to Cush. There's a million places you could go. This story never happened. The story never happened. And if the story is written 700 years after the purported events, they're going to refer to some things that just could not be possible. Next, but wait, there's more. We have the introduction of the hero of the story. We have the villain. They set it up perfectly. The villain, Egypt. The hero, Moses. And they introduce him as this baby being born, and his mother wanted to keep him safe. So instead of leaving with the child, which seems like, in the middle of the night, wait a minute, can I ask a question? Y'all left later. Why didn't y'all just leave before? We wouldn't have needed the Exodus if you just got your butts up and just left. But you left. You didn't leave before, but now, okay, anyway. Next, we have the finding of Moses. Now, here's the part where historians and many people have had to scratch their head about, why does Moses have an Egyptian name? Why does this hero that they painted as their hero, why does he have an Egyptian name? His name is Moses. Moses is an Egyptian name. So later on, they tweaked the story and they said, oh, Moses, because clearly that's an error. You gave our Hebrew hero an Egyptian name. Oh, because I was writing about somebody that was in Egypt. Let's change his name. Tut Moses. Moses means son of. Tutmosis, son of Tut, or Tuhuti, or Thoth, Thoth. Sometimes it's Tahot, sometimes it's Thoth, sometimes it's Tahuti, sometimes it's Jehudi, same being, Thoth. Tutmosis is son of Moses because the pharaohs were actually a son of a god, and the name of the god was in their name. Amenhotep. Amen is the god. Amun, Amen, Amun, Amun, Amon. Amon, Amun, Amen is the day. Akhenaten, he worshiped the Aten. Wasn't an Egyptian god, that was a god of his own making. Aten, and his name means beloved of the Aten. They all had what they call theophoric names. A theophoric name is a name where the God is in your name. Same thing in Israel. Israel, from El and Elohim. A lot of the angels, Gabriel, Uriel, on and on and on. The Els, that's a theophoric name. It's named after the El, the great El Skyfather, who is really another iteration of Anu, the Skyfather. And then later their names start to have Yah names, right? Yet, how does the hero of the story have an Egyptian name? Well, they had to fix that. They said, okay, what are we going to do later on when they had to amend the story, when they redacted the Bible, or at some point, someone said, hey guys, we can't have his name be Moses. Oh, well, we can't change his name because we already told everybody Moses. How do we explain that this man, that Moses, is an Egyptian name? Okay. Okay, wait a minute. I think I got it. In Hebrew, the word to the word draw out sounds like Moshe or Moses. So we're gonna say that his name is Moses because we're going to say it's a Hebrew name. It's not a Hebrew name. Tutmosis. All the Moses, look at all the kings look at all the pharaohs. We're going to say that he's named Moses because it's like the Hebrew word. We got to make it Hebrew. The Hebrew word to draw out. So the lines are blurred between Hebrew and Egyptian. The lines are blurred. So they made it that it means to draw out. So therefore, we're drawing him out of the water and we're going to name him Moses. It means to draw out. And it's still carried forth to this day. Yet some scholars have said, they've pushed back on that and say, it sounds like a remedy. Let's go further. These 2 chapters of Exodus just have so much in them. Let's go further. Let's go back into the book. Hold on, screen share. Because when you're talking to people who want to tell you, I mean, they come in the comments, they want to tell you the Bible and the Bible and the Bible. I want you to be, or we are, I will say, I don't want you to do anything. There's nothing I want you to do. We are choosing to equip ourselves with knowledge and truth so that we can stand on our square, as the Masons say, stand on your square. So you can stand on your square. We can stand on our square and speak with anyone about this from a fact-based evidentiary position versus opinions. Everybody's got opinions. I have a lot of opinions about the Bible. I'm not talking about my opinions here. Here and there, I'll slatter in, sprinkle in my opinions. I'm not looking for another opinion. I'm looking for the truth. What happened? What happened? And how did we get the story that we have today? What happened? The story of Moses. Let's go into the book and let me get you Sargon. And let me show you the story of Sargon of Akkad. Hold on. Let me get you the story. Now, Sargon is a historical figure. He's proven in history. Yet, there are legendary aspects added to his story after the fact, which happens quite a bit. You start to make big, 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 big sweeping stories about someone who was very famous and did something very famous. Okay, let's go to Sargon of Akkad. There's something I want to show you. Okay, here's the story. Sargon, his father is unknown, but his mother was a high priestess of the Intu class, an elite status of priestesses. This is in the book. The real God is not in the Bible. How religion and superstition blinded humanity to the truth for thousands of years on Amazon and on Kickstarter. If you're a member of the Valerie Love YouTube channel, the Christian Witches YouTube channel, you have a copy of it as a gift. Sargon's father is unknown. His mother was a high priestess of the Intu class, an elite status of priestesses who carried out ceremonies and rituals at the temple for major deities such as Inanna/Ishtar. The priestesses took vows of celibacy because they were married to the god or the goddess. In a deliciously scandalous plot twist, Sargon's mother had a lover and became pregnant. Right? She's got a vow of celibacy. She's in the temple. She's a priestess. She's a high level priestess. Well, she births a baby in secrecy. I'm not sure how she hides a pregnancy for 10 moons while living in the temple, but she does, according to this story. She crafts a basket of reeds, seals it with bitumen, a waterproof tar sealant, then floats baby Sargon down the Euphrates River, hoping for the best. That sounds familiar. Not to mention that Isis floats baby Horus in a basket among the reeds of the Nile River to hide him from his mean Uncle Set. Perhaps that's another motif. Baby in a basket on a river. Back to the story. The river carries Sargon in its flow until he's found by Aki, a humble gardener. Aki, feeling pity for the infant and having no idea where he came from, rescues Sargon and raises him as his own. Of course, no one knows how elite this infant is, so they raise him like any other child who eats regular people food, drinks regular people drinks, and does regular people activities. Okay, so eventually they're going to discover, as they always do, that the hero is actually not this humble little person. They're actually the savior of the whole world. Happens like that all the time, right? That's part of the motifs, the stories. So therefore, yeah, this is where the thought deck comes from. So I want to say this about Exodus because I could go on and on and on about Exodus, just chapters 1 and 2. Let's summarize it here. 1, Moses never existed. He's not a historical person. 2, the infanticide that the Bible claims happened never happened. There was never a Pharaoh who ordered Hebrew women to, the babies of all Hebrews to be killed. 3, the population of Egypt wasn't even as large as the population that the Bible says were strictly the Israelites. 4, political propaganda, or actually not even political propaganda, religious propaganda is noticed in the very first few verses of Exodus chapter 1. Exodus chapter 1 has propaganda in it. Next, there are only 2 midwives to service millions of people. It's really strange because the story refutes the story, right? Where do you get the original story? Oh, this is a good one, Denelzia. That's a good question. Let me answer that question in a moment. Next, I forget what we're up to, number 5, number 6. Next, we have a recurring motif in Near Eastern literature of a baby in a basket on a river. Happened like 3 times, 3 different ones that we know of. Euphrates River, Nile River, doesn't matter. It's a river. It's a baby. The mother got the basket, made it out of reeds, sealed it with some bitumen, put the baby. Oh, it's a good story. Makes for a good story. We like that motif. It's just like today we have our tropes that we love. We have the magic school trope. All these kids are coming to go to a magic school, like in Wicked and Harry Potter, right? Vampire Diaries. They have a magic school. And then We have the trope of the girl is from a low class and the guy is from a high class, so they can't be together because they're different socioeconomic strata and their love is forbidden. It's forbidden love. Bridgerton, the latest, the latest season of Bridgerton, we love that. They can't be together because oh, society is so unfair. They should let love should be the answer, not whether you're royal or not. Right? We love that trope. We have the trope of the investigator in the stories that are the murder mysteries. We love the disheveled trope of the detective who won't let a case go because he has a hunch. This detective has a hunch, but nobody, pays any attention to him because he's scrumply Columbo, and he looks like he doesn't. He does looks like he can't put two, sentences together and make it coherent. So therefore, he solves the mystery. We love that the unlikely detective solving the mystery. And Columbo, every episode of Columbo knew who did it the first conversation he had with the person. He always knew who did it. But then he had to build the case, and we love to see Columbo build the case. We love tropes in our stories. We love them. We love the forbidden lovers trope. Romeo and Juliet. We've been having these tropes. Shakespeare knew all the tropes. And we love the tropes. We want it to happen. We want the couple to be apart and then come back together. And then something takes them apart again. And then Outlander. I fucking love Outlander. Love it. With Jamie and Cecily. We just love how much Jamie loves her. Oh, we just love the story. We know the story is full of tropes. We want the tropes. As a matter of fact, if you write some kind of new thing that doesn't have the tropes in it that everybody's expecting, there's going to be an outrage from the people who are reading the books, because the people who are reading the books, we want the tropes. And there you have the trope of the baby. The authors of this gave you all the tropes. They gave you the baby. They set the scene so beautifully. They gave you the baby, and the mother is like terrified. And then, do you notice that in one sentence, it said that Miriam was a little girl. In another sentence, it says she was a woman. Let's look at it. Did you notice that the story doesn't even agree on the age of Moses' sister in the Bible? And we're going to presumably say that it was Miriam. Presumably. Okay, we're just going to go with that because of the story. All right. Then his sister, okay, look at this. Look at this. Okay. His sister stood far off, right? Moses' sister is standing far off. Oh, good Lord. Battery again. I can conclude before the battery runs out. We don't have to pause for me to get juice. The sister stood far off to see what would happen with this child, right? Okay, first, let's go up here. The woman conceived when she was a long time. She put the child on and laid it in the reeds. His sister stood far off. Pharaoh's daughter, the maidens. Okay, and then it says here, the young woman. The young woman went and called the child's mother, but this is supposed to be Moses' sister. She's supposed to be a little girl. She's like the spy, standing watching the basket to see what's going to happen, because apparently, I don't know, the mother couldn't do it, so I guess she had to send his big sister, go and look. And then as soon as they find it, she presents herself, runs to the banks of the river and says, hey, I volunteering, because she says, oh, the Pharaoh's daughter says, oh, this is a Hebrew baby. But if you're the Pharaoh's daughter, and your father just ordered all of them to be killed, you're not thinking to yourself, oh man, my dad wants to off this, leave that baby there or take that baby somewhere or whatever. Why are you so interested in this baby? Why are you immediately drawn into this baby? Your father hates these babies in this story. Okay. The little girl says, I can call a nurse for him because as soon as she opened it and saw the child, the baby cried, oh, she immediately falls in love with the baby. Oh, and then she says, this is one of the Hebrews' children. Why is an Egyptian princess out and about bathing in the Nile River when inside the palace, that's where the paupers bathe? Inside the palace, they're drawing baths of milk and their feathers with the ostrich fanning her as she gets into the bath, as she exits the bath. The princess is in the palace. She's not out wandering around the streets with two of her handmaidens, going down, taking off all of her clothes and bathing in the Nile River where all passersby are just passing by and sees a basket and opens it and it's a baby. Oh, and she immediately falls in love with this baby. And then Miriam, the little sister, says, should I go and get one of the Hebrew ladies since he's a Hebrew baby? I heard you say he's a Hebrew baby. Should I go get one of the Hebrew ladies and nurse him for you? Yes, it's a great idea. Okay. And Miriam runs back to her mother and says, come, coast is clear. You come and you're going to nurse him. And she got paid to nurse him. Why is an Egyptian princess paying a Hebrew woman money to nurse this Hebrew baby and then bring him to me? But wait a minute. You're going to bring this Hebrew baby boy to the same palace where your dad said, kill them all, but your dad's not going to kill this one. Make it make sense. Come on, make it make sense. Then when she goes to get it, it says the young woman went and called the child's mother. What young woman? When did she turn into a young woman? That was weird. And got him. And then famously, he kills the Egyptian, famously, because he's so akin to his Hebrew people. But you were raised in the palace. The dad who wanted to just off all of them took you as his own and raised you as a royal. And now you're out, you kill an Egyptian, you bury him, and then you have to flee. And when you flee, we run into the exact same story that we saw twice in Genesis. It's a recurring trope that here comes the maiden to water the flock at the well. Man, in the Bible, a whole bunch of shit always happens at the well. These wells are just like famous. Rebecca comes out to the well, Rachel comes out to the well. That when they come to the well to feed and water the flock, oh, let me water yours too, and then you're going to know that it's her. Okay, the other one comes out and let me water all your flock. And then this time they just reverse the role. And this time the man helps her water the flock at the well. It's the same story. It's a rehash. It's the same story. These writers love the well trope. That if you help, it's a sign of the times, because right now none of us would write any kind of trope about a well and sheep, because that's hard, and the women would be fussing with the shepherds, and the shepherds would be telling them, get out of here because we gotta fall, drink, let all our people drink, and they'd be like, and they was having kerfuffles back and forth, and Moses was like, no, 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 let these women get water for all their sheep. Oh, he's amazing. Look at this man. He's already created. He's already performed. heroic acts. First, the heroic act of killing the Egyptian. Next, the heroic act of standing up. These shepherds are bullying these women. Let me stand up and help them with their sheep. And then he goes about his business, and the woman goes back and tells her father. Does this story sound familiar? We just read these stories twice in Genesis. The woman goes back and tells her father, and the father says, "Where is this man? Bring him. Let's give this man some food. This man is wonderful." She runs and go gets him. Come on, we're gonna give you some food. Come on over here. My dad wants to see you. And he comes, okay, and he accepts him to his household. And what happens? He gives him his daughter, Zipporah, for a wife. This is the same exact story. It's the same exact story. Then they have a child. Did you know Moses was a father? So, Moses, what did you do when it was time for you to go free the Egyptians? Did you just leave your kid? Like, what? You left your mom to be a single, you left your boo to be a single mom with the kid? Moses, you have a son. Aren't you supposed to be doing something with him? Do you understand that this is a very interesting story? Okay, let's read some comments. Not if my luxury bath can be drawn in the past. Let me tell you something, family. I've seen many people bathing by the Nile River. And when I say bathing, I don't mean that they're taking a bath. I mean that they're, in the water, playing in the water. You see kids playing in the water on the side, on the banks of the Nile River. And some parts of the Nile River is so skanky and dirty that you would not, like the East River in New York City, you wouldn't put your feet in it. And there are parts of the Nile River where people do go and they splash and play in the water. And in a particular part of the Nile River, it was beautiful and pristine because the river flows, so it can clean itself, especially flowing over rocks, right? All the cataracts that are in that Nile River. Well, our participants in our ritual, well, it was a retreat and a ritual. The attendees at our retreat baptized themselves in the Nile River. They did a baptism. That wasn't my plan. I didn't have a plan. I don't have a plan when I do retreats. I have an intention and powerful guidance and protocols and uh, activities and what we're going to do and where we're going to do them and accommodations. All those things are all laid out. What happens in that container is quite miraculous. You might baptize yourself in the Nile River. We've had many baptisms on retreats that I did not see coming. And that was just amazing. So there are people who have baptized themselves in the Nile River, just just threw themselves straight back in the Nile River, complete baptism. So the Nile River is a place where people along the banks of the Nile River, people do get in the water, splash around in the water and whatnot. I don't know any Egyptian princess, the daughter of the Pharaoh, who is just walking down to the banks of the Nile River that is accessible by both her and the Hebrew people, the common people, walking around. The people that you now have enslaved, the people that now there's a royal decree to kill all the sons, supposedly. You're down there just taking a bath with your handmaidens, and you're the Pharaoh's daughter. And when you see the insides of some of these palaces and temples, you know that that cannot be possible. I mean, they've got they're pouring the hot water. There's a bath for the Pharaoh's daughter. They got lotus flowers, jasmine, uh, blue lotus, the oils, the herbs, the incense. Like, this thing is a whole experience when they get milk and all of that. When they get ready to bathe the Pharaoh's daughter, she ain't just traipsing down to the Nile River, taking a little whole bath in the Nile River. Stop it. No. No, I can assure you that did not happen. It cracks me up. And you want to know how true is the Ten Commandments movie with Charlie Heston? Not true at all. That's an easy one to debunk. Oh my goodness. Okay, let me say something else. Dear. from what I've learned from watching Hindu scripture serials, when they say bathing in the river, they mean swimming. True, 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 true. That's right. That's right. Swimming. Absolutely. Yes, I ain't bathing outside as a princess. No, it's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening. I was assuming she was about 14 to 16 since they referred to her as both girl and young woman. Could be because that was weird that she's a girl one moment and then the young woman. Young woman, that's weird. I need to look in the scripture for all the transliteration and see what words are used for her in that point. Glorious new day. I thought I'd missed the live. God save your battery. I know that's right, Reverend Evelyn. So we have had a very thorough discussion of the book of Exodus, chapters 1 and 2, and have debunked many of the things that are already stated in chapters 1 and 2. This is a fabulous episode. This is such a fabulous episode. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I will see you tomorrow for a continuation of the book of Exodus. Mwah.